Around mid-August, I heard about the announcement of the official Singapore offline premiere. Now, I initially thought that this was just some local event, similar to the Smash events, with maybe at max 100 participants, the majority of which would be Singaporeans. Imagine my shock when I looked at the participants and saw the names of literal world-class players from all around the world in attendance. My initial goal of doing okay in the tournament turned to just getting autographs and pictures with the pro players because I already knew what my role was, okay? And that was a jobber. I gave the pro players their one win, boost their ego, and send them to their next opponent. See, even though I technically attained the highest rank in the game, Masters, it has its own MMR system, which separates Masters players from Masters players. My average MR during this time currently hovered around 1400 to 1500, which meant that I was basically on the same skill level as the average Masters players. The actual good players, like those that actually know how to play the game, they are at around the 1800 to 2000 MR range. And though the around 400 MR difference may not sound a lot, trust me, it feels like we are worlds apart in terms of skill level. Apart from rank, there were also some offline local Street Fighter 6 meetups, and though they didn't hold any tournaments, we could still play with other people in friendly sets and get some actual in-person practice. And I'd say I fared pretty well against them, considering my rank and limited offline experience. What else did I do? Oh yeah, I attended this event that featured Xian. Yeah, you remember him? He's like the #1 Street Fighter player in Singapore. So I had the chance to 1v1 him, and if I won, I'd get prizes. And you know what? Let's just say that I did not get my prize. Okay. The last major Street Fighter related thing that happened was on the day before the actual tournament started. There was this other meetup, which featured some of the pro players that just landed in Singapore. And if you went, you could play a few games or take pictures with them. And now, when I heard that players like Daigo and Mena RD were going to be at that meetup, I could not pass this opportunity. So I went, and wow, it was actually so surreal having the players you've watched and respected for years be in the same room as you when you're just some guy that just plays ranked. Like I said earlier, there was Daigo, arguably the most well-known Street Fighter player in the world, Mena RD, the only two-time winner of Capcom Cup, one of the most competitive Street Fighter invitationals, and Fudo, a top Japanese player, all in the same room. I took pictures with everybody mentioned and also got their signatures, which was awesome. I forgot to bring my controller, so I couldn't play any matches with them, but my friend James was able to run a few sets with Daigo, and out of the 20 rounds played, James got a grand total of 2, which is actually not that bad, honestly. James also tried to run a set with Mena RD, but the latter was gonna go eat dinner. But he did promise James that he would find him at the tournament tomorrow and play a best of 5 with him then. Oh yeah, speaking of the tournament, it's time to actually talk about it since it's finally the day. My pool had 3 people I recognized, which was not good because if I recognized your name, there was a high chance that you were very, very, very good at the game. The odds became more stacked when you realize that out of the 14-ish players in a pool, only 2 could advance to the next day. Oh well. GG, I guess.
O cholera, czy to Freddy Fazbear? Oh.
While on my way to the venue, I wasn't really that nervous about my performance because I already knew that I was going to lose right away, so I more looked forward to the spectating experience and meeting my favorite players rather than focusing on competing. We got our lanyards and entered the convention center, and first impressions, the screen was huge. Like, this wasn't some paper Rex watch party. This was the actual real deal. Apart from the screen, there also were the setups where the matches were to be played. The competition only took up a portion of the entire convention center, so some setups were a bit squeezy, but it was still possible for multiple people to spectate matches that weren't on the big screen. And that was good, because the amount of names and people I recognize who have played at like the highest level of Street Fighter walking in the same venue was definitely an experience. I didn't want to take pictures with all of them, but it was still cool to spectate and watch their matches in person. Speaking of matches, my pool started at around 2 PM, and as I set up to record the match, whilst waiting for my opponent, one of the tournament organizers came up to me and said,
Your opponent is not coming, so you won your first round, I guess.
with that, I advanced by default and technically get my first victory, which is a bit anticlimactic, but whatever. My next opponent would be Solid Jin, who was the world's #1. Yeah, wait, you listen again. The world's #1 Jamie player. And I already knew that there was gonna be like a 2% chance I'd actually make it to the next round, because unlike my first opponent who DQ'd, Solid Jin was somebody who evidently had history playing the game. I waited for my next match by watching Jameis's match, and it actually went down to the wire, like last game, last round, last hit type of game. And Jameis was actually able to pull through and get the W, so that was nice. Once that was done, I hovered around the other setups before returning to my own for my match, but as luck would have it, the tournament organizers informed me that Solid Jin had DQ'd as well, and my 2% ass actually made it through to the next round. I was now in the winners semi-finals. I half expected my next opponent to not show up as well, but he actually did, and I was finally able to play a game. You know, for the winners semi-finals, I had a feeling that my opponent's opponent in his prior matches didn't show up as well, like he was in the same boat as me, because I'm gonna be honest, he did not play like he had beaten 2 other people to get here, considering that I actually 2-0'd him, and yeah, so I sent him to losers. So it's a bit rich coming from the guy that also had all his opponents DQ'd, but hey, I won, so I have the right to call him out. Anyways, with that victory, I was soundly in, and I never thought I would be saying this, I was soundly in winners finals for my pool, which meant that if I beat my next opponent, I would qualify for the next day. A tournament organizer would then inform me that all winners finals matches would be streamed, meaning that I'd be playing on the stage where my set would be blaring on the big ass screen, as well as streamed to a bunch of online viewers. You had no idea how much the stars had to align for this to happen. And wouldn't you have it, my opponent would be one of the names I mentioned at the beginning, HotDog29. And like I said, he was the most decorated player in my pool, so it wasn't really a surprise that he would be in winners finals. Before the match started, I already accepted that no matter how lucky I was before, there would be absolutely no way in any hell where I would be beating HotDog29. This was as far as I got. Despite me accepting my fate, I still had to wait for it because every single pool's winners finals was to be streamed, and by the time I was finished with my winners semi-finals match, pool 14's finals just started, which meant that I had to wait through 10 matches on stream for my match to start. Assuming each match takes around 7 minutes, and when you factor in the breaks for the stream, I had to wait for like 2 hours for my beating to start. We couldn't play the setups because they were still being used for the tournament, so we just watched the matches and messed around a bit.
We want to see it. Any message to your friends, family, loved ones back home? You repping the Bandits, your region, your country. Any message for them?
それぞれの無限を衝突させることで生成される仮想の質量を押し出す挙式紫。
While waiting for my match to start, let me carry on the tale of Jameis and Mena Adi. So if you forgot, the day before the event, Mena Adi promised Jameis a best of 5 when they met at the tournament that day. Jameis and I both thought that by the time the actual tournament started, Mena had already forgotten about his promise. But he proved us wrong, as when Mena was preparing for an interview, Jameis wished him luck for his future matches. And when Mena saw Jameis, he said something along the lines of, "Hey, I still haven't forgotten about that best of 5. So, after the interview, Jameis approached Mena for that set, but the latter wanted to watch the stream match that was happening at that time since his friend, Zaffarino, was playing. Jameis told Mena where we were sitting so he could find Jameis. After the match, Zaffarino lost, and I guess Mena went to console him because Mena went to like the back of the convention center, which was far from Jameis. It didn't really matter because Jameis was the one who wanted the best of 5, so it made more sense if Jameis was the one to seek out Mena Adi instead of the other way around. But at least for the time being, Jameis couldn't really pluck up the courage to walk up to Mena as he did last time, so he waited for the optimal moment to go in.
Jameis, what do you think of your match against Mena later?
Who?
Speaking of waiting, after like 2 hours, it was more or less time for my match. As I was ushered into the stage area, the TOs were scrambling to find Hot Dog 29. I guess Mr. Hot Dog spent his 2 hours waiting for his match being uncontactable as TOs couldn't really find him. As the match before us reached its second round, Hot Dog 29 was still not found. Was I gonna get away with another daylight robbery DQ? Okay, at that time, I didn't really have time to think about it because I was too busy freezing to death to properly focus on the match.
It's gonna be my turn next, and all I can think of is how cold I am. I am still freezing, it's still not my turn yet. This weekend, baby. No, I'm more cold and nervous, man. I am legit freezing.
As the match before us finished, Mr. Hot Dog 29 was still not found. Was luck on my side for the 4th time in a row.
Well, my turn. Oh my god.
Well, in the end, they were able to find Mr. Hot Dog, and it was finally my time to shine. As I saw my face plastered on the screen, you could see my reaction. I was still shell-shocked at the fact that I was playing on the same stage that FGC Legends played prior. We wished each other luck and we went off, and as expected, I kinda got stomped on the first round, and it was the same going into the first half of the second round. It was Jover. I had lost. And then I was right, I did lose. But I didn't really mind it. The jobber is supposed to lose, and I left the stage a happy man. Both at the fact that I played on stream, and the other that, wow, this makes for good content. If you look at the player camera, you'd think that I was the one winning, but no. To commemorate the experience, I got a photo with Mr. Hot Dog, the guy that kicked my ass. I still had one more match to play. This was to qualify for me to advance to the next day, but honestly I was kinda drained already, so I half hoped I lost, and I did lose, and with that I was officially kicked out of the tournament at 65th place, which was honestly a blessing in disguise because I was kinda lazy to attend the next day. Jameis and I didn't attend the next day's event. We wanted to rest, but we did attend the one on Sunday since top 8 would be playing then. Whilst I got more pictures with players, Jameis still was hunting Mena for their best of 5. but Jameis still couldn't really approach Mena since he was busy doing his own things, and plus Mena was actually in top 8, so Jameis assumed that he wanted to actually get some practice in with actual good players instead of him. So during the whole of Sunday, Jameis did not seek out Mena at all. He did try to find him just as we were about to leave, but to no avail. So we just left once top 8 finish, which had some hype as hell sets, by the way. I mean, look at this insane crowd. So to wrap it up, with 2 DQs, 1 actual W, and 2 losses to my name, one could assume that I was a fraud, like a certain JJK character, but hey, honestly, I don't care. I got my footage, I got my pictures, and I got my experience. So if that is what being a fraud is, I am Ryomen Sukuna. Anyways, on another note, I am also literally Gojo Satoru, and thanks for watching.